Okay, so after our voice and movement classes, we moved on to working on Chekhov scenes. Specifically, the module or units that we were doing was called Realism. And the goal here was kind of to put into practice some Stanislavski textual analysis methods, apply them to scenes from The Three Sisters by Anton Chekhov, and by the end of the 2 or so weeks that we worked on this stuff, we did a sharing with everyone where we showed off our scenes. And yeah, it was an interesting process. I really enjoyed learning the textual analysis methods. Basically, a very quick run through is that with the script, you kind of split 4 columns. And in these columns, they each have different headings of different things that you want to look at. So things like the subtext of what's being said, the objectives, the actions being taken place, things like that. And you kind of go through the script just over and over and over again, figuring out these different bits and picking them apart. And yeah, it's a great way to really learn a lot more about what's going on there and to make some decisions about your character that you might not have just looking at it by yourself. And so we applied that to Chekhov, and that's where things started to get pretty tricky for me, because I haven't really worked with realistic pieces before. Everything I've done is being sort of theatricalized to some extent. I suppose, maybe that's not true. The closest thing I've ever really done to realism, I guess, is immersive theater pieces, which are kind of as realistic as you can get. But even then, there was like levels of abstraction, because, I mean, Peter Pan, we went to Neverland, 1984, we were in Ministry of Love, I think it was, one of the ministries, and stuff like that. So that was, I don't know, maybe that was realism and I've missed a connection here, but anyway, the problems that I had with this is that we worked really hard to make all these character choices and to figure out the lives of these characters and to, know their backstory and know what they're thinking at every moment. And then we had to find a way to not let that have too much influence on our acting. We had to find a way to to know these things and let it influence us, but not have it kind of rule us, because that's when we kind of get too much in our head. And that was really difficult, and I don't think I really managed to pull it off, because we had just worked so hard to make all these decisions about. I was playing a character called Tuzenbach, so I had to make all these decisions about he moved to the city in 1840, something like that. He's known these women for 20 years. I don't remember if these are the actual choices we made. I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head. Words, actor, great. And then there wasn't really any way to express that stuff. And so we didn't have to keep it in mind, and yet we also did have to keep it in mind. So it was really frustrating to try to portray that stuff without trying to portray it. And so I was kind of stuck in my head a lot of the time. And then there were other things I was having problems with too, because one of the extra challenges for myself and the other guy in our group was that he and I had to perform the scene twice, because we had a bit of double casting. So we did the same scene twice with 2 different takes on it. In one of these takes, I was sort of allowed to be a lot more comedic. That's kind of the route we went with, where Tuzenbach was a bit more of a buffoon. And so we did things like that where I could jump on a chair and I was pretending to be a bird and things like that. And it was great. I could do that fairly easily, although it took me a while to get there, because in the other scene, it was a bit more of a serious tone, sort of. At least it was for Tuzenbach. Or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. It's hard, because these are the decisions that I try to make, where it kind of came down to like, is Tusenbach okay? Or is he kind of falling apart inside? So for the comedic one, he was more okay. He was just trying to really impress Irina, one of the three sisters, and get her to fall in love with him. And in the other one, I was trying to portray it more as, like, he's still trying to impress her, but in a way that, like, he's getting frustrated. She keeps ignoring him, and now she has a crush on some other guy. That's something we're trying to portray, and I'm picking up on that. I'm getting mad, and I'm getting upset. And so by the end of the scene where I'm, like, giving off these long philosophical rants, it's, like, it's more emotional that way. And maybe I just got a bit too caught up in trying to really portray those differences, because I think I was trying too hard to be serious rather than allowing the kind of the sadness and the comedy to come out, because that's kind of where we kept getting pushed into. Yeah, it was, I don't know, it was hard. I could never quite figure out what I was supposed to do as that Tusenbach, and that was solely on me. Like, the director and everyone else were really great and supportive, but I was just too in my head. And this was the first time we really did any kind of acting project so far in this year, because it had all been voice and movement stuff. So I was too in my head, trying to figure it out, trying to know what I was doing, rather than just fully committing to the moment and letting whatever happens. And I think, yeah, this is going to be something I'm going to talk about a lot in these videos. I just have to know how to go out there and do things wrong, and then I'll be told to stop doing it, if need be. And that's what I got to do. And I know that now. I didn't know that back then. So that's where a lot of the frustrations were happening, because I was trying to figure it out and I couldn't. And normally I can. Or like I would think I figured it out, and then I was asked to go somewhere else and I'd get lost again. And yeah, things like that. So it was very difficult for me, sort of finding ways to commit to the realism module. And I got really frustrated just with myself. I wasn't angry or anything. I was just frustrated I couldn't really get into the piece. So hopefully that's something that I can work on. And hopefully I'll have more opportunities to kind of get into realism again, because I should learn how to do it. Theoretically wise, I don't know how much I agree with realism as a genre. Like, I think there's so much more you can do in other genres, but I'll save that for another video.